For this demonstration, you are given two photos, a photo of a man and then a photo to copy and paste him and cut him out and put him on this background photo of speakers. So I want to talk today about selecting. So for selecting something and cutting it out of one picture and putting it into another picture, you need to use the selection tools. So these are all different selection tools. You can select things of different shapes. You can select randomly and quickly, but as you can see, it doesn't do a great job. To deselect, Control D will undo and deselect that selection. Now there's a couple lasso tools. One of them is just random. This one is polygonal, it's straight lines. If you have something like very straight edge that you're selecting, you can do that. And then the other one is the magnetic lasso tool. And this one kind of clings to the edge as best as it can. You kind of have to move slowly along the edge of something, go all the way around. And if it doesn't click in the right area, like you can hit backspace a couple times and undo. This one tends to go haywire sometimes. It'll kind of go nuts like that. So sometimes I have to hit escape. But this one allows you to kind of cling to the edge and click along as you go. Usually I start in one place and go back to where I started. So it selects the whole shape of the person. But you don't even have to worry about those right now. For certain things, they're nice. This I wanted to show you right here. This is brand new to Photoshop. With this new Photoshop, it's object selection. And with this one, you just click and drag over your object, and it does a pretty good job of finding the edge of the object. So it takes a minute to calculate. But as you can see here, it selected it really, really nicely with maybe just missing a few little hairs and details. The other thing, I'm going to Control D, that I really like to use is this quick selection tool. And this one's a brush tool, and you can click and drag. As you can see right now, there's a plus sign, so that means it's adding to the selection. You can hold Alt to change that plus to a minus and take away the selection. So let's say if you over select an area and it gets the background or something, you can hold Alt and push it back. So that's the one I used to go to all the time. But this one makes it really easy, this quick selection tool or the object selection tool. So I'm going to Control D and just use the object selection. So let's let that do its thing. Now, anytime you select something, you want to make the edge look very natural so it doesn't look choppy. So, and you can see little areas like this that it might have missed. Right away, I can go in and use the quick selection tool and like kind of fix that. It'll add to it. So I sometimes will use the quick selection tool along with this new tool. And just depending on like the color of the background, some things are easier to select than others. So right away, I'm going to change this and kind of fix it up. So every time I select something, you have to go to Select and Mask. It's at the top here. If you're in these selection tools, I can right click and also go in here to Select and Mask. Select and Mask is going to give you some options here. I'm going to scroll to the top. First of all, I play with the view. So I like to look at it on a completely transparent background so I can really see the edge. And then I'm going to zoom in a bit, Control plus, use my two fingers to move around my keypad or my mouse pad. This wispy brush is the one I want to show you because it's really good. If you paint along the edge, it will kind of pick up the wispy hairs and a lot of the detail around the edge. If there's like here, you can see the background through his hair a little bit. It will kind of dissolve that, and look at it's bringing back some of those hairs that easily get lost when you do a selection. So I just kind of go along the edge of his head, and then even like his neck, you can see there's some of the background still in his hairs on his neck. So I can kind of paint over that and refine that and just look closely around the whole selection. Like right here, got a little choppy. I'm going to add. And if it does something weird, you can change it to the minus and undo it as well. Right here, see that I can see the wall in that space of his headphones. I can paint that out as well. If there's anything that it missed, you can bring it back, and you can do that with the minus, but you can also, this is a good technique, is to look at it now on this red overlay mode. And then you can really kind of see like where maybe some of the hairs did get erased, and maybe right here it got a little too transparent. So you can go back. There's a quick selection tool here again that you can go back and fill some of that in. You might want to make your brush a little smaller so it doesn't do like take away too much. Even in his ear there, just want to make sure I didn't take away. His ear, I think, is a little bit red. But see the edge of his hair there looks better. I'm going to go back to the quick selection, or I'm sorry, the little wispy tool, and like fix that again. And then let's try to go to the minus with the wispy tool. Make my brush tiny with the brackets of my keyboard. I wonder, nope, I'm going to make it a plus. Just seeing if it will pick up some of these little hairs. I mean, you might not want wispy hairs there, but I'm just trying to get this as accurate as possible. So you can see it against the red really well. At first I do it against the on layers transparent, but then afterwards I look at it on the red too, just to see. And you can flip through some of these depending on what you're selecting. Sometimes this little black and white one is helpful too. Okay, so when you're done with this and it looks perfectly selected, you can hit OK. Oh, I want to show you this too. The radius kind of dissolves some of the edges. Sometimes I do radius. Sometimes I feather it a little, which like makes it a little fuzzier, but I think this one looks super accurate, so I don't really want to mess with it too much. But you do have other options to feather, to smooth, to shift the edge even. When I am done, I'm just going to hit OK. And there's two different ways to do this, so I'll show you both ways. So now when I hit OK, he's completely selected, and I can just copy, edit and copy, or Control C, and I can go over here and edit and paste, or Control V, and then it looks quite natural. I can move him around and place him where I want to place him, and if you look here, you can see all the little hairs and things like that. So anytime you copy and paste, it's going to, in your layers, put him on a separate layer. So if I open my layers panel, he's floating on top of that original layer. So I can use my arrow tool to move him around. I could Control T to put the bounding boxes around him, and I could like change his size and just place him wherever I wanted to place him. The other thing I wanted to show you was if you have a picture like this and say you want to make the background pure white, because this one isn't pure white, you can select something like him and then flip it to select the inverse or the opposite of what you just selected. So if I go up to select, I can go to inverse. When I go to inverse, now look, the selection, it looks like he's still selected, but he's not. It's actually the background that's selected. It's like the opposite. So if I do something like that, I can then go in and like take my paintbrush and paint in white. So I could go in and paint white. I could also hit backspace, and it gives me the option of what it wants me to fill the background with, and I can choose white, I can choose black. Let's choose black so you can see. Control D just to look at it. So you can kind of play with that and see, you know, what works best. The other thing I want to show you is selecting this. So after you select him, I'm going to go back to the selection tools and show you one more thing. If I select and mask him, there's another option after you've done all the refining and stuff to, if you go down to the bottom, you can click this Decontaminate Colors. And it'll automatically set this to new layer with a layer mask. So instead of just hitting OK like I did before, I'm going to click this box under Output Settings that says Decontaminate Colors. And what it's going to do is instead of just selecting him, it actually puts him on his own layer with a mask. So it created a layer mask for the selection. And the reason this is kind of nice is now I can copy and paste him, Control C or edit and copy. And I could paste him here, edit and paste, or Control V. And I'm just going to turn that other one off for now. Now he's still got a mask around him. So remember, with layer masks, you can paint in black to make things disappear or paint in white to make them reappear. So if I paste him and I click on the layer mask, I can go in and still make adjustments to him. If I realize there's mistakes, I could go in and like erase parts of him. That would be with the black paintbrush. mask, I can also bring back things. So if I decide later, like, oh, I need to make a few more adjustments, it doesn't look just the way I want it to, and I notice I've missed something, he's on a mask now, or he's got a mask attached to him, so I can go in and make adjustments later. So just a couple different options when you're selecting. You can choose to select it and just keep it on its own layer and keep it selected and copy and paste it over, or you can add it, make a mask that's attached to it on its own layer so that you can still make changes later. The other thing I want to mention, if you do it this way with the mask, it doesn't look like he's selected, like those little sparkling lines are no longer there, but he actually is selected still. And to copy and paste him, you just Control-C, Control-V. You don't have to like reselect him again or anything. So for something like this, if you wanted to paint in a background, you could add a layer. So this is add a layer, I dragged it behind this layer, and then you could paint whatever background you wanted to with the brush. There's this paint bucket tool as well. And you can paint something in.